Okay, so here we go. Percentage is a title. Let's define a percent to start off with. Now remember, I don't give a diddly squat where you sit in my class, but if you start demonstrating that you can't handle sitting next to your friend while I have the floor, at that point I shift gears into childhood mode. I treat you like a child because you can't handle sitting next to your friends when I have the floor. So, just a little word of warning. I already see some little tendencies in certain people in here. I'm not mentioning any names. While I talk, let me have the floor, so I don't go down that road of childhood with you. In other words, show me you can be an adult. Let's define a percent. I'm going to write this down. A percent is any fraction out of 100. Percentages is the title. So the first thing we're going to define is what the heck a percent is. There's a lot of mystery to what percentages are.
Are you able to meet today to just go, like maybe briefly?
Absolutely. Very glad to do it. Okay. Any fraction out of 100. The symbol for percentage is you've seen that before. But there's a lot of mystery to this symbol. That my goal today is to demystify what a percent means. Any fraction out of 100. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Go ahead and draw a piece of cheese if you don't mind. If you want, you can draw the mouse, but go ahead and draw a piece of cheese. If you don't like cheese, then I'm going to make fun of you and you're going to draw it anyway. Knock yourself out, man. Queso fresco. Okay. Now what I want you to do with this piece of cheese, here's what I want you to do with the cheese. I want you to cut the cheese. You'll see why. Just be patient. 1/4, 2/4, cut into 1/4. 4 pieces. Slice that piece of cheese, cut that cheese into 4 pieces. Cut the cheese.
Get the cheese out.
Now, go and highlight 1/4 of that piece. Okay? Just highlight 1/4 of that piece. So far, so good. Now, we ate 1/4 of the cheese. You and I ate 1/4 of cheese. That's why we highlighted it, because we ate it. Let's just pretend, make believe.
That's small.
You're awesome, man. I love your comments. This is wonderful. This adds so much life and vigor to my classes. This is wonderful. Check it out. Watch this. I am a big basketball fan and baseball fan. I get into arguments with my students all the time about who the greatest basketball player ever to live was. And I'm going to argue the greatest basketball player to ever live was this guy.
Yeah, of course.
This was in 1988, the slam dunk competition. Michael Jordan jumping from the free throw line to dunk the ball. Free throw line, slam dunk. He beat Dominic Wilkins in the finals of that slam dunk competition. One of the greatest dunks ever. Look how high he is. This is why his nickname. One of the names for Michael Jordan, if you don't remember, one of his nicknames was Air Jordan.
Does he have so much height?
Yeah, you see, hops, you got air. Another nickname for him was MJ. People call him just MJ.
Did they call him Mikey too?
No.
What? I thought in the movie.
Another name for him would be Michael Jordan. Another name for him was his airness.
Nike Air.
Kind of like you're to address a king, like your honor, your majesty, his airness. So the point here is this. All these different names, there's 4 of them, refer to the same man. Okay? Different names for the same man, right, Altamirano? Okay? Now, coming back over here to the piece of cheese. That same concept of different names for the same thing, let's just review. Go to, next to your piece of cheese that you ate, go ahead and put fraction,
1/4.
squiggly, percent, squiggly, decimal. The fraction, the percent, and the decimal is going to refer to the same amount, just like those 4 names refer to the same person. So the fraction of what we ate would be 1/4.
How do you say it in Spanish?
What? Don't know. How about the decimal? Let's do the decimal. How do we convert a fraction to a decimal? Well, if you forgot, you can go down memory lane, but for the meantime, I don't have time for you to go down memory lane. So to convert a fraction to a decimal, all we do is do exactly what the fraction tells us to do. Watch this. 1 divided by 4. Again, 1 divided by 4. Let me bring that down a little bit. Watch this. 1 divided by 4. Put a decimal here. Put a decimal there. 4 does not go into 1, so I put a 0 there. But 4 definitely goes into 10, right? It definitely does go into 10.
One time.
Take it over here.
You just touched the mouse.
Very good. So let's see.
Messed up the cheese.
4 goes into 10 twice. 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down a 0. Remember, like in elementary school? 4 goes into 25. 4 times 5 is 20. No left over. So here's your decimal, 0.25. So the decimal is 0.25, 25 hundredths. 25 hundredths of the cheese we ate. If it's a decimal. It's not a lot. It's the same as 1/4. That's what, so you're misunderstanding already. You say that's a lot. You're misunderstanding the whole point of this lesson. Because 25 out of 100 pieces is the same as 1 out of 4 pieces. So in percentage, we define a percent as a fraction out of what? What's the definition? A fraction out of what? So this is going to be 25 pieces out of 100. In other words, if I chopped this piece of cheese into 100 pieces, I would have eaten, and so would you, have 25 pieces out of 100, if it's going to be the same as 1/4. So percent just means a fraction out of 100. Now, I'm about to teach you some life skill now. Watch this. I'll write this down.
What's the big screen?
I'm going to put a star on your notes and go and write this down. The way to solve any, and I mean any, percentage problem is to use the following formula. The following formula. Part to whole equals part to whole. Very powerful tool here, what I'm teaching you. In other words, there is so much confusion with percentages, just like fractions. All most students are taught is just, if you need to figure out a percent, multiply this and divide by that and move the decimal this and do. It's just a series of memorizing steps rather than understanding what's going on. The way I teach it is it's going to enable you to understand what percentages are, and I'm going to demystify it. I'm taking the mystery out of it. Watch what I'm talking about. Example 1. I notice you comment on almost anything I do. That's pretty cool. Who taught you that? That's pretty good. Huh. Number 1. Let's do this. 5 is what percent of 50? Question mark. Put example 1 on your notes. 5 is what percent of 50? Watch the power of this part to whole formula. All right. Does this involve percentages, or does the word percent come up in any way? Yeah, right there. Boom. There's a percent. So without even thinking, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down 2 fractions equaling each other. You're no stranger to fractions. You pass, 4 days? Every time you walk into class, I start off with a warm-up with fractions. So you're sort of in the groove of fractions to a certain degree, at least. Watch this now. Part over the whole equals part over the whole. We're dealing with percent. What is the definition of a percent? You wrote it down about 6 minutes ago. Any fraction out of what? So look what I'm going to do. Without even thinking, since I'm dealing with percent, I know one of the fractions, the denominator of one of the fractions is going to be 100. Do that now. Without even thinking, because that's what percent means, literally, a fraction out of 100. Now, so I only have 3 spaces now to fill in from this problem. A part, a whole, and another part out of the 100. Let's see. Watch this. 5 is what percent? Look at the question is actually the percent. The unknown is the percent. What is the percent? So I know that the unknown is going to be over 100. Because that's the question. So the unknown here is x. Put an x there. Because after all, that's the question. 5 is what percent? What out of 100? So that's unknown. So put it over the 100. And what's going to be the part in the whole over here? 5 is the part. 50 is the whole. Part to whole, part to whole. So 5 pieces out of 50 is what? Is how many out of 100? Let's solve this now. Watch. I'm going to show you the shortcut. You have this situation where you have a fraction equaling another fraction and one of the parts is unknown. The quick and dirty way to do it is just cross multiply 50 times x and then 5 times 10. And it creates this really dirt cheap one-step equation which you've already learned how to do way back in pre-algebra before 9th grade. Watch this. 5 times 100, 500, equals 50 times x, 50x. Look at how it's dirt cheap and simple that equation is. We call this a proportion. A fraction equaling another fraction is called a proportion. To solve proportions, the quick way is to cross multiply and it results in this ridiculously easy equation. How do you solve for x here? Well, we do to both sides. Right, divide by 50, yeah, because 50 times x, the opposite of multiplying is dividing, so look at it. So there it is. X then. Yeah, exactly. So that was over here. That was the missing. So 5 is what percent of 50? Well, it's 10%. 10%. This is actually 10. 10 out of 100. Anything out of 100, that's what percent means. So 10%. All right. Let's shift gears. Watch this. Example 2. Look at example 2. Yes. Compare with example 1. Look at the wording has changed. Gonzalez, you with me? Ramirez. Or forget your last name. I'm right here. Look at how the wording has changed, but the numbers are still the same. But the wording has changed. 5% of 50 is what number now? It's a different kind of question than number 1, but the numbers are still there. We're still going to use part to whole, part to whole. I'm going to show you the power of this symbol, this formula here. %5 of 50 is what number? Okay, so without even thinking, I'm going to my part to whole proportion. Look at fraction equaling another fraction. Fraction equaling another fraction. Am I dealing with a percent somewhere in this problem? Okay, so without even thinking, percent means something out of 100. Literally. Nothing more, nothing less. There's no mystery to percents anymore. Is a percent unknown, or is a percent known in this problem?
No, it's no.
It's known, huh? There it is. So I'm going to put 5 over 100. That's what 5% means. I want you to get a sense of the power of this formula. Once you understand and the light bulb goes off, it's powerful. All right, now what's the part in the whole over here? Let's see. 5 already used. 50, 5% of 50 is what number? So would the 50 be the whole or the part, the way it's worded? Part. Of 50. Of 50. So if I say something of something, whatever comes after the word of is referring to the whole thing. If I said 5 of you, that's the whole class. So 50. Whatever comes after the word of in English is the whole. So 50 is right here.
X is
And there's the unknown. Is what? Look at what number? That's a question. There it is. So you really only have 3 slots to fill in when you're dealing with a percentage problem. Because this is a no-brainer. You just put the 100 there because you're dealing with percent. Let's move on. Let's do it. So let's see.
cross multiply.
Exactly. Cross multiply. We're dealing with proportion. 50 times 5 is 250. Yeah. I'll put over here. So 250 equals 100x, huh? Divide by 100? Yeah, 2.5. So x equals 250 divided by 100. You can use a calculator, and it'll give you 2.5. Does that make sense? Let's see. We're going to replace x with 2.5 in the original problem. Watch. Think of the piece of cheese. If I chop the piece of cheese into 50 pieces and ate 2.5 of them, is that the same amount of cheese in my stomach as if I chopped a piece of cheese into 100 pieces and ate 5 of them?
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. If I chopped a piece of cheese into 50 pieces and ate 5 of them, it's the same amount of cheese in my stomach as if I chopped it up 100 and ate 10 of them. I want you to get the mystery forever, once for all, now. Make a commitment. There's no mystery to percentages. It just means out of 100. Last one. Good, doing good. Look at it. I'm going to reword the same numbers now. I'm going to reword it now. Watch. I'm sorry? Back of what? Yeah, your notes, I don't care about your notes. You deal with those and organize them the way you see fit. They go on your tab, so I never look at them. They're just for you to keep on. You remember, you can use them on tests, quizzes, and assignments. So make sure you're organized. Because I can close this here. I'll just stay here all day.
Yeah, I mean, no.
All right. Look at same numbers, but look how it's worded now. 50 is 5% of what number?
100.
Thank you. We're done. Boo.
Do.
It doesn't close. There we go. 50 is 5% of what number? Let's do it. Without even thinking about it. Part to whole, part to whole. Look at this. Are we dealing with percents? Is the word mentioned or the symbol mentioned? Absolutely. So without thinking, look at there it is. Is the percent given?
Yes.
Yeah, let's look at it. It's 5%. That's 5. That means 5 out of 100.
But instead of the 50 being on the bottom, it's on the top.
So the whole is unknown or the part's unknown?
The whole.
The whole is unknown. Look at it. Of what number? I just said whatever comes after the word of is your whole. If I said 5 of you are going to fail my class, 5 of you meaning the whole class. Don't take that literally, I'm just playing. Whatever comes after the word of in English is the whole. So of what number, that's your unknown, and then the only other number left is 50. We're ready to rock and roll, right, Scotty? All right, let's do this. Magani, you with me? I knew it. Magani. Let's do this. Cross multiply. 5 times x is 5x. Is,
X is 100.
are you sure? What's 50 times 100 though?
50 times 100.
That's 5,000?
Yeah.
Oh, 100,000.
Divide by 5. X is 1,000, huh? Does it make sense though? Let's see. Let's think of the cheese. Let's cut the cheese. If I chop the cheese into 1,000 pieces and ate 50 of them, is it the same amount of cheese if I chopped into 100 pieces and ate
No.
5 of them?
No. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of cheese in my stomach. Yeah, think about it.
Take away
All right.
We're done.
Beautiful, beautiful. Watch this now. We're done for now. Let me shift gears now. Here's what we're going to do.